Hello, hello. Can you all see me?
Yeah.
Hey,
Hi, Abby.
Abby.
Yes, Abby.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you
Hello.
and to hear you, I guess I should say. So, we have quite a number of people. We'll wait for about, let's say, 2 to 5 minutes, and then we'll take it away. Lynette, good to see you.
Good to see you, beautiful. You look great.
Thank you. So it's okay. So when it's 8:05, we'll take off.
Same we are next to the Wafa you. Mm. Wow. What is wrong with them? Is it desperation? Mm. Yeah, their main unit is to humiliate. Sorry. No, I want to never. A microphone is unmuted. The video stopped. Why? Ah, right. I will. You are not speaking, Uncle.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Abby.
Can you see and hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you all very much for coming once again. This is the Abi Imani Reviews Show, and I'm glad to come your way again. And today we are talking about our mental health. Before I go on, I'll offer a short word of prayer and then we'll take off. Shall we pray? Father, we thank you for another episode. We thank you for another opportunity to interact. We are trusting that your presence is here with us because you promised us that where two or three are gathered in your name, there you are in their midst. So be with us and order this conversation and let it be to your glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, so as I said before, this is the Abi Imani Reviews show, and today we're talking about mental health and particularly how the pandemic has affected our mental health. I don't know about you, but for me, right from the beginning, it was quite stressful. I mean, not knowing how to go about dealing with all the information that was coming, and then also having to deal with my own personal issues. And at a point, I was actually depressed, but by God's grace, I've been able to make it this far, and the same with all of you as well. But today we are going to have two mental health experts coming to talk to us to offer some advice and tips on how to deal with these times. And the first guest is Dr. Isaac Newman. I'll read a short profile on him. So, Dr. Isaac Newman is a senior medical officer and clinical psychologist from University of Medical School and University of Cape Coast, with over 10 years of clinical experience. And he worked with several government and private health institutions in Ghana. Currently, he works as both a general medical practitioner and clinical psychologist and consulting for University of Professional Studies Clinic. He's also on part-time basis at the University of Ghana Hospital and Acacia Medical Center. He also serves as a part-time lecturer at Family Health Medical University and Daniel Institute. And over the years, he's attended to many people dealing with various health-related issues, crisis, addictions, career, purpose, marriage, relationship, family, etc. And he's an author of 5 books on purpose, marriage and relationships, and mental health. His other special interests and part-time engagements include creative carpentry and graphic designing. That's very interesting. And he's married with 2 children. So that's a short profile on him. And then we have Miss Angela Kumah, and she's also a clinical psychologist and a graduate researcher. She's currently pursuing her PhD in Birmingham City University. She's passionate about mental health, loves cooking, and loves the Lord. And she's single. She's not married yet. God willing, she'll get hitched and married soon. So I want to welcome all of you and to welcome our guests. I'm yet to see Dr. Newman, but I'm seeing Angela here. Angela, can you please show your face?
Hi, everybody.
Yes, so that is Angela. Thank you very much for coming. Yes, so the plan is actually for you to share your story. So Angela is going to share her story. I'm not going to um, take the, how do you say it? Take the meat out of her mouth, so to speak. I just allow her to go ahead, and hopefully by the time she's done, Dr. Newman will come on and also continue. So Angie, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you again, and thanks, Avi, for having me on your show. It's an honor. My name is Angela Kumah. I am a PhD researcher and assistant lecturer at the Birmingham City University. And as Abby said, I'm passionate about all things mental health. Um, in addition to also having my own struggles occasionally. We're here to talk about mental health and what all of it means to us. And I just like to say, first of all, that as I keep saying, it's okay to seek help if you're struggling, and no man is an island, and having a mental health problem is not a flaw in your character. My story is mostly related to a recent diagnosis I received before lockdown started. So I'm in school in the UK and away from family. I mean, I have family and friends here, but yeah, quite far away. And it's been a struggle trying to, get used to PhD work and the struggles. And I also work for the city council as well, the Birmingham City Council. So it's like having to juggle all of these things and having to be in a different country away from family and friends. And I received a diagnosis of type 1 diabetes somewhere um, in February, actually. So it's been exactly a year. So on the 9th of February, I'd not been too well. And eventually I ended up in the hospital and I was really sick. I was really close to death, actually. If I hadn't gone into the hospital at that time, I probably would have gone into a coma and never woken up. But God was with me, and God sent help, and I'm always grateful for that. But having to have a new diagnosis of type 1 diabetes with no family history or no idea where it came from is a really, really difficult thing to deal with. Around the time as well, I had to move houses. So I was living alone. And then they suddenly announced a national lockdown. And I, yeah, it was just really hard. So I was stuck at home. I couldn't go into uni. I couldn't go into work. I didn't have any family close by. I didn't have a housemate. And I had to deal with a new diagnosis, a whole lifestyle change where I have to be checking my blood sugar 8 times a day, and I need to take insulin before I eat anything. And it was just all a mess. And and there was PhD work and all the expectations that still were coming along. And it was just really difficult. And I kept asking myself, why am I here? Why am I struggling like this? I think I take care of myself pretty well. So where's a sudden diagnosis of type 1 diabetes from, and why me? And all the questions we ask when really hard times come and struggles come. But by God's grace, I still have a lot of very supportive family. My aunties and my uncles used to call me and all of that. But I realized that I was depressed when I had to do all this schoolwork and there were all these expectations, and everybody's like, oh, you get used to it and you'll be fine. And it's a lifelong diagnosis, but you get used to it. And especially in a secular country where people don't believe in healing or the healing that God provides, and having people say, oh, it's fine, you get used to it. I don't want to get used to it. I don't want to have to get used to having to take insulin every day of my life and, live in this cage of being sick. And um, people think that, okay, you have to be overweight or something to have this illness. And I remember a friend saying something silly like that, and I really, really broke down because I said, I didn't bring this on myself, and it wasn't my fault that I had this diagnosis. But I started to get depressed, and I didn't even notice I was getting depressed because I'm the mental health expert, so I thought, okay, I have all of this figured out. I'm just tired. But I realized I was getting very lethargic. I was struggling to get out of bed. I didn't want to eat. Checking my blood sugar when I saw high figures, I was just more and more and more discouraged. There was nobody to talk to. Actually, I had to be solving more of everybody's problems because you're the psychologist and everybody's in lockdown, everybody's afraid and anxious. And people were always coming to me with their problems, and there was no outlet, nobody to talk to about these things. I felt, I could call my family and my sisters, and everybody was aware. And all they could say is, we wish we were there, but we're not there. And yeah, it was just really, really difficult. But especially during this time, being alone, having to be in the house alone, I just, I found a lot of solace in the Word of God. And my relationship with God has been strengthened a lot this time because it was just me and my four walls and my Bible and my music. And of course my family, but it was really God that kept me going through these times of being alone. And even in the beginning, not being able to recognize that I was depressed because it was just, for me, it was just, okay, lethargy. I'm tired. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to eat. I don't feel like sitting in front of my computer. But I started to realize that, okay, these are the signs of depression that I have been telling other people are the signs of depression. So I need to check myself and look after myself a lot better. And by God's grace, the Holy Spirit always has a way of reminding us that, there is help out there and there's help available. And even though I gave it to God and I spoke to God and He healed me and He brought His joy and His peace, it was okay to talk to somebody. And I have a psychologist. So I phoned my psychologist and I told her, Auntie Yvonne, I'm struggling and this is what is happening. And she's like, oh, okay, why didn't you tell me earlier? So we just had a long conversation, and she told me to put down my thoughts and have a thought diary and see the progression of my thoughts and what kind of negative things I was thinking about, or what kind of things I was saying to myself because I was in this really low place. And I was reminded that it's okay to seek help, even if I think that I'm the expert. There's always a medical doctor for the medical doctor. There's a psychologist for the psychologist. There's nothing wrong with seeking help. It's not a flaw in your character if you decide to still give it to God and talk to your therapist. And yeah, since then, I'm always in touch with my psychologist. Let my supervisors or those around me know that okay, I'm struggling and I need to take a break because doing a PhD is really hard. And when you take a break, you start to feel guilty. And I had to deal with a lot of imposter syndrome as well. Just a whole load of things that I was dealing with. But by God's grace, there's been amazing support from family, from friends. Abby was always texting me and calling me and checking up on me to see if I was doing okay. There's a lot of support from my bosses, and I think I had to pick myself up as well because I create mental health content for especially the Black and Afro Caribbean community in Birmingham. So I had to do a lot of the mental health conversations and teach people how to get through lockdown, when I myself was struggling. But because I was telling people this is what you should do, I was learning myself. So I wasn't just teaching others and then not, making use of my lessons. So yeah, Dr. Arthur is here now, and that's a gist about my story. So hopefully we'll go into a bit more discussions on mental health and all of that later on. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much, Angela, and we thank God for taking you through that. You've been very strong, and it could have only been God who could do that for you. You're welcome, Dr. Newman.
Thank you.
So
Forgive me.
that's okay. That's okay. I'm sure you have a lot on your mind. So Angie just
Thank
finished the story. So you're going to go, but before you go, I just want to mention some of the things you're going to talk about, so our audience know what to expect, and then they can also bring their own questions. So Dr. Newman is going to talk about what mental health is, what our general attitude about mental health is, how we can change the wrong perceptions we have. I know that most of the time when you mention the word mental, then all we think about is the psychiatric hospital. So nobody wants to even admit that we have mental issues. So he talk about that, and then how can we maintain good mental health in these times? It's really stressful, not knowing. There's a lot of uncertainty going on around, even with this new vaccine, and not everything is clear. So sometimes that can be stressful, and then you have to deal with your jobs, your family, your marriage, relationships, all aspects of life. So Dr. Newman is going to talk to us and give us some tips and some encouragement so that we can survive and not go down and under. So over to you, Dr. Newman. I've read your
Okay,
profile
thank you
already, so
very much.
everybody's expecting you.
Thank you. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. Can I be heard
Yes,
clearly? Okay, so mental health issues are quite significant all over the world. Actually, it's estimated that more than about 700 million to about 1.1 billion people have some form of mental illnesses. And the mood problems, anxiety, depression, and drug-related issues with mental health, schizophrenia, bipolar, substance use issues actually sit on top. And all over the world, our understanding of mental health issues is becoming deeper and broader. Over the years, a lot of research findings, a lot of advocacy amongst governments and institutions here and there has helped, in helping people understand what the issues regarding mental health is. And so we've come a long way. Even Ghana, it's up to about 2000 and I think 2013 that there were real policies on level of the government as to what to do even with mental health services even in the country. Currently, if you look at even the funding for mental illnesses comparing to other diseases, you realize that mental health has been underfunded. So the issues concerning mental health has been largely ignored and also underestimated. In Ghana, estimated up to about 15% of the population have some mental illnesses. And some can even talk about the fact that up to about 40% may have some mood problems. And so it is very, very, very significant. The issue with mental health care has to do with the fact that because we don't understand what it is, we virtually do not seek the kind of attention we need. A lot of people make mental health issues a personal issue instead of a health issue. And because of that, they don't seek help from the right places. When people have malaria, they have hypertension, diabetes, they have some chronic disease of a sort, or even some acute illnesses, they go to the hospital straight away. But when it comes to some mental illnesses, people stay home because they make it a personal issue instead of a health issue, requiring some form of professional help. So some people may come to see me in the consulting room with their mental health issues, and they're wondering, so why didn't I come and see you, earlier? Because they realize that they've suffered over the years unnecessarily. A girl was raped at age 8, but started seeking help at age 30. When she came to see me, she was wondering why didn't she come, way earlier, but waited until now before she came, when she now understood what mental illnesses were. And so people have a certain mindset about mental illnesses. They make it a personal issue. And we also stigmatize mental health issues because anytime people do not understand what an illness is, they assign spiritual causes to them. And also they have some kind of mystery in terms of the understanding of what is going on. And because of that, they cannot really seek appropriate care. So the first point of call is people who really do not understand what mental illnesses are. And so they are not able to seek the right care. So just to delve a little deeper into what mental illnesses are and still making it very simple for everybody watching me to understand. Mental health is on 3 levels. But before I go into that, health is on 4 levels. Health is 4-dimensional: physical, mental, social, and spiritual. Physical, mental, social, and spiritual, that is health. So if someone is healthy, we are looking at 4 dimensions. Their physical well-being, their anatomy, physiology, all the body structure and processes, and all the chemical changes in the body. That represents the physical aspect of them. So for example, they have high blood pressure, or the blood sugar is up, they have a temperature, they are vomiting. They are all physical measures of health. Then social, we talk about their relationships, talk about their economy, their work environment, tradition, culture. And now, importantly, social media and social media related issues. Then spirituality has become an important concept in health, because you realize that there are some aspects of the human experience that you cannot really put under physical, mental, or social, but it significantly affects people's lives. So people's worldviews and belief systems, their quest for self-actualization, their connection to a higher power, their sense of interconnectedness, and also some transcendent realities and experiences. All these things are a measure of the person's spirituality beyond religion and religious practices. Spirituality encompasses a broader concept than religion. Then we come to mental health. Mental health is on 3 levels: your thinking, your feelings, and your behavior. Your thinking, your feelings, and your behavior. So any thinking or feelings or behavior that is negatively affecting your life, you are mentally not healthy. Beyond the mad, respectfully, the mad person on the street, which represents an extreme form of mental illness. Any thinking, any feelings, or any behavior that is affecting your life, is affecting everything around you, such that you cannot move on with your life. It is on the domain of mental health, and you need some kind of help. So if your thinking or feelings or behavior is causing these 4 things, it means that mentally you are not healthy. The first is that if it is causing distress, you are in some kind of distress or discomfort. Because of that, you're in some pain. It can be emotional or physical pain because of the way you think or feel or behave. You are mentally unwell. Then also, any thinking or feelings or behavior that is causing dysfunction. You are not able to function properly. because of how you are thinking or feeling or behaving. So for probably you're sad, you're worried, you cannot, function well, you cannot get yourself out of bed, go about your activities, your work and all that. It means that you're mentally not healthy. Then also, when the thinking or feeling or behavior is causing damage to everything around you, your work, your relationships, your friendships, and everything around you is suffering because of how you feel, how you think, and how you behave. Then finally, if it causes deviation from social norms. So everybody lives in a certain social context. It might be a work environment, maybe your culture in a certain community. Anybody who deviates from social norms, we need to be able to find out why, and the why may be fundamental. I hope I'm back. Sorry. I think someone got in touch. Can I continue?
Yes, please. For a moment, I thought I had gone off.
Okay,
Okay.
so any thinking or feelings or behavior that is affecting your life is mental health, and you may not have a disease, but you may have a mental health issue. Issue means that it may not satisfy any diagnosis, but because it is on the level of thinking, feelings, and behavior, and is significantly affecting your life, we say you have a mental issue, but not a mental illness. So a lot of people may have mental issues and they need to go to the hospital even for help. It may not be a disease, but they have an issue and they may have to go to the clinic for help. Just in physical health, when someone has a headache, and even with the headache, there's nothing really with the headache. It's just a headache or body aches. They still go to the hospital for help. In the same way, when they have mental health issues, when they go to the hospital, they can be helped. And so a mentally healthy person is able to do 6 things, which I want to quickly share. The first is that a mentally healthy person should be able to cope and adjust to situations. So your ability to cope and adjust to things, to new environment, changes around. This year is a pandemic. Last year was a pandemic. Your ability to cope and adjust to the situations around, to friendships, to everything around you is a function of or the quality of your mental well-being. Then also a mentally healthy person should be able to form and maintain meaningful relationships. So all relationship issues between father and son, mother and daughter, between friends, colleagues, countrymen, all relationship-related issues is under mental health. Then a mentally healthy person should be able to live independently. They should be able to own their own thoughts. They should be able to wrap their hands around their own activities, their work and everything with little interference and support. A mentally healthy person should be able to do that. And we use people of the same age to compare your functioning, even in terms of independence. So if we take all 25-year-olds or 30-year-olds or 40-year-olds or people who are adolescents or children, at a certain age, we expect some level of independence. And a mentally healthy person is able to live independently. Then also a mentally healthy person is able to form and decide on their purpose, meaning in life, and their goals in life. They should be able to say that this is what I want to do with my life and come up with ways of doing it. So all purpose-related issues is under mental health, and there are all kinds of therapies for that. Then also a mentally healthy person should be able to have a good or positive perception about themselves, a good self-identity and self-image. Anybody who looks down on themselves, they cannot find any good thing about themselves. They are not able to reach their full potential because of how they perceive themselves. They are not mentally healthy. Then again, a mentally healthy person should be able to contribute meaningfully to society. So if you are mentally healthy, Your presence in any environment should rather progress the environment instead of make it worse. So anybody whose presence in any social setting threatens the setting, does not make the environment progress, it means that the person is not mentally healthy. So all these things are a function of the quality of your mental well-being. So people who are not mentally healthy, all these things, are around them. And there are risk factors for mental illnesses. We have biological factors and environmental factors. So there are genetic linkages, biologically genetic linkages, to a lot of mental illness. That is why mental illnesses run through families. Then also we have people who, because of some brain damage from the womb, autism, attention deficit, some cerebral palsy and learning disabilities, even brain damage, through childbirth, delivery, it causes brain damage that affects their mental health. Then some diseases like stroke, hypertension, diabetes, they significantly change the chemistry of the brain, the physical structure of the brain, and such that there's some damage to their mental well-being. So, for example, if someone has a stroke, they may have personality change, memory problems, speech problems, their cognitive function may be gone. Even in HIV, the virus attacks the brain. Now we know COVID-19 virus also attacks the brain, such that those who have severe form of COVID-19, they have some residual, brain damage, executive function, residual loss in executive function, even after recovery, even from COVID-19. And so people who have some brain problems, brain damage through accidents, through diseases, they may go to have some mental illness, and also as a complication of the physical illness. So those who have stroke, hypertension, diabetes may have depression, anxiety. They may have stress and things like that, personality change, like I said. Then we have environmental factors, things like your upbringing, the thing that is happening to you right from the womb to the tomb. Every single experience you get along the way is influencing how you think, how you feel, and how you behave. Then your training, exposure to abuse, violence, everything that is happening in your society is deciding everything that is happening around you. The things you watch, the things you are exposed to, the information you collect from your environment, all these things are deciding your mental well-being. Societal influences and pressures from everything around you is deciding the quality of your mental health. So there are all kinds of risk, drug and substance related problems that is responsible for a lot of brain problems, and a lot of mental illnesses. Is all part. So mental illnesses go beyond the mad person on the street. So actually, there are more than 16 groups of mental disorders, many groups of mental problems. We have the mood problems, for example, depression, where they feel sad, worthless, hopeless, and stuff like that. Then we have anxiety-related problems, all fear-related issues under mental health. So people who have, some post-traumatic, fear-related problems, generalized anxiety, OCD, obsessive-compulsive disorder, all these anxiety-related issues are under mental health. Then psychotic problems, the madness-related illnesses we know, even that we have different types. We have even mild, moderate, and severe, forms of psychotic problems. Then we have, neurocognitive problems, like issues with dementia and stuff like that. As people grow older, there are actual changes in their brain that is responsible for their, deficits in memory and executive function. Then we have neurodevelopmental problems that develop from childhood, from the womb. So people with autism, attention problems, intellectual problems is under mental health. Then alcohol and substance use problems, addictions to alcohol and all that, and all forms of addictions to alcohol, masturbation, and all that is under mental health. Then sexual disorder and sexual dysfunction, all sex-related issues, people's ability to have good and quality sex, abnormal sex, paraphilias, and all sex-related issues and addictions to all kinds of sexual stuff, premature ejaculation, and all those things is under mental health. Then we go to sleep problems, personality disorders. We go to feeding problems. We have disorders. We have bipolar and bipolar-related problems, and we have disorders relating to complications of mental illnesses, or complication or side effect of medications. There are some medications when you take it affects, your mental well-being. And people with pregnancy and pregnancy-related issues and stuff like that. So mental illness is huge. It's huge. Too many illnesses. So actually, there are a lot of people who are struggling and suffering in life, but they don't know that what they're going through is a mental illness and they need help. So generally, to improve on your mental well-being, there are basic things that we suggest. In terms of managing mental health, you need a holistic approach, physical measures, mental health measures, social measures, and spirituality measures. You need a holistic approach to manage mental illnesses. There are some things that the doctors, the nurses, the psychologists, the psychiatrists, counselors, and staff will do in a professional setting. And there are things that family members would have to do to help the person. And there are things that individuals themselves have to do to be able to, deal with their own mental well-being and improve on their mental function. So, holistic approach, you need a holistic approach. When people come, what we do is that when they see a professional, we do a subjective assessment and objective assessment. So, subjective means that we engage you in certain conversations to make a diagnosis, to find out what the issues are and how it is affecting your life. Then we plan the way forward. So in way forward, we may have to start you on with, we have to do some assessments, which are objective assessment. So even for mental health, we have tests for it. So sometimes you realize that it's a physical health issue that is causing your problems. We request for some labs, but we have objective assessments, which usually is a paper and pencil test. Usually it's a paper and pencil test that we use, and it has all kinds of things that we ask you to be able to evaluate your situation to find out objectively, to find out whether you have an illness, mental illness or not. And if you have, is it mild, moderate, and severe? So based on that, assessment, then we plan the way forward for you. So we start off with medications to help you, to feel well, help with all the neurochemical changes that is going on, manage your symptoms in a certain way, correct some chemical changes here and there. Then in addition to that, there's something we call psychotherapy, where you engage a professional in a certain kind of conversation that brings healing to you. So we have different forms of psychotherapy. There are some psychotherapy that deals the way you think, somehow you feel, somehow you behave, some the goals you set before you, some to endure challenges and problems if you cannot solve them. There are all kinds of psychotherapies that has been put in place to help people deal with their mental health issues. Then we have self-help skills. There are things we teach people to be able to help them maximize their mental well-being. And I'll list them briefly and I'll end. The first is that when people are positive about situations, it influences their mental well-being. So when things happen to people, it is not that event that determines how they feel or behave, but it is their thinking about the event that is responsible for how they feel. So two people may go through a relationship breakup. One will think about it in a positive way, they will move on. Another will think about it in a negative way and they will drown. So it's not really the relationship breakup, but it is how people think about it. For example, two people are writing exams. One will say, this is difficult, I will not pass. The person will be anxious, even in the exam, and may not pass. Another person will say that, oh, this exam is difficult, but I have what it takes to pass. Even if I fail, I will write again and I'll move on. The second person has a better way of evaluating the situation and they are able to move on. So people have to be positive about every situation. That is the first thing. Secondly, they should surround themselves with positive information, information that feeds them, encourages them, able to develop them, their mental faculty, encourage them. Then they should surround themselves with positive people, friends, relatives who are negative around you all the time. They are indirectly, influencing your mental well-being. So you stay away from people who bring you down and discourage you, but surround yourself with people who have a positive influence on your life. The fourth one has to do with the fact that people should declare and simplify their expectations and goals. The higher your expectations and the more demands you place on yourself, the more it is difficult for you to make progress with your life. You are always stressed, you are always anxious because you have wild expectations of people and of the future. And if you're thinking about yourself, the world around you, and the future, is very negative or overly rated. You put undue stress on your life instead of simplifying your goals and be patient with your goals. Sometimes people are overwhelmed even with how they feel and think about their goals. So people should simplify, their goals. Then also thankfulness. When people are thankful, regardless of what they go through, they are able to feel positively about life and move on. So instead of seeing the cup half empty, you see it as half full. Because when people really evaluate their lives, they realize that the problems are not too huge. They still have some things to hold on to and be more thankful. Instead of focusing on the negative about their lives, they should focus on the positive about their lives. Then the next one has to do with the fact that people should laugh a lot. They should smile a lot. They should get involved in pleasant activities like hobbies. They should engage in social activities that gives them a certain pleasant, feel about this life. Because this life is not all that serious, People do not have time to relax. Rest is also important. So we encourage people to sleep enough, to get involved in restful activities because it improves on your mental well-being significantly. Then also, we encourage people on prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation helps you have a positive outlook to life. It helps calms your life, gives you a better perspective even with your life. Prayer and meditation has been shown to help significantly. Another important thing we encourage couples to do is also sex. Sex improves on mental well-being significantly. There are three chemicals that are released when people have sex: oxytocin, endorphins, and dopamine. These three would improve sleep. It would give you a positive feel. It will deal with pain. It will deal with stress. So sex improves on mental well-being significantly. So we encourage married couples to get involved in sex. Then also good nutrition, especially fruits and veggies, that has a lot of nutrients because there are some nutrients that is so important for the brain's function. Your brain also needs glucose to be able to function well. So if you eat a lot of fruits and veggies, it helps. Vitamin B complex, an important vitamin for brain function. And all those things, neurochemicals, in your brain, they need these ingredients to be able to function well. Then also dependence on a higher power like God. Those who depend on God, they are able to deal with their problems properly because they are able to receive some kind of support. When people also get in religious activities, like when they go to church or go to some gathering of a sort and they get involved, the social networking and all the singing and praying and all that, it helps people improve on their mental well-being significantly. Then the final one I'll say is that destigmatization of mental illnesses is key. Decriminalization of mental illnesses is key, like decriminalization of attempted suicide, because all these things are a barrier to mental illnesses. And negative religious interference is a barrier to people seeking help. So now we have collaboration between religious bodies and the healthcare settings because we need everybody for case identification and management, so that people who have some mental illness can feel free and come to the hospital even for help. So mental health workers are plenty. We have the psychiatrists, we have the psychologists, we have the counselors, psychiatric nurses, and we have all kinds of people who have been trained to help with mental illnesses. And I know that in Ghana, when you go to any hospital, there is someone there who is in charge of mental health issues. And even if they can't find help for you there, they are going to refer you to the right place, even for help. So I wish you all the best in this life season. And this is the few things I wanted to share with you on mental illnesses. Thank you very much for your time. I'm grateful.
Thank you so much, Dr. Newman. This has been insightful. We'll go on to the Q&A session. And this time, both Dr. Newman and Angela Kumah are available for your questions. Some have typed, and I see one person's hand raised already. So we'll dive straight into it. I'm going to leave it to our two guests to decide who will go. Or maybe I'll mention one person. If the other wants to talk first, then we'll all agree on that. All right. So I'll go with Lynette first. I saw her question first. And Lynette is saying that How do you help a friend or family member who is despondent and does not want to engage with anyone and would prefer to isolate themselves? Angie, would you like to start since Dr. Newman just finished?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. How do you deal with somebody who wants to isolate themselves? Especially sometimes when you are depressed, it's really hard to want to connect with anybody because you're going to be hearing the constant, "You'll be fine," and you get over it, and it's all good, and God is in control, which are all great things to say. But sometimes some of the things that people who are when you are depressed, you are in a state of extreme sadness, and unless you've been there, I can't even begin to explain to you how down you feel. It's like you can be in a room full of people and everybody seems invisible to you because they're just like focused on how tired and lethargic and hopeless and helpless you're feeling. Um, I think the first thing to remember is to always remind the person that you are there for them without being too pushy. The occasional text, the occasional voice note saying, "Oh, I decided to say this quick prayer for you." As Christians, I find that a lot of the time we go, "I'm praying for you," and "Oh, it is well," but we never actually pray for the person, or we never actually find out if the person needs food. Maybe the person is depressed because they don't have money. If they will not be open to telling you, "I don't have money," or "I don't have food." Ask the Holy Spirit what to do. I mean, the Holy Spirit is our best partner, especially as Christians. I mean, he knows everybody's heart, and he's going to tell you this is exactly what this person is going through at this period, and this is what they need. Speak to him and ask him what you think you need. I mean, you need to do for that person first of all. um Contact family and friends that are around them to keep checking on them, to make sure that they are in a good place, they are resting well. At least they are trying to exercise a little, even if you are just going to call their sister or their brother to say, "Oh, can you go out on a walk with somebody?" Because physical activity does a lot of good. A person, fresh air, or just that little company may do a lot to transform the person's mind or how they are feeling, or just remind them that they are wanted and they are not alone. Because that's where, I mean, what isolation and depression and all of, I mean, these low mood disorders, like Dr. Newman has talked about, really come down to that people get to a place where they feel like, "I don't want to go on again, and I'm a burden, and I'm not good enough." And it's about constantly giving these reassurances and consistently having these conversations and reminding them that it's okay not to be okay, but not to stay there. And of course, talk to a mental health professional as much as you are giving it to God. And I always say this, and I can't stress it enough. You can give it to God, but still talk to your therapist. There's nothing wrong with saying, "I am depressed." I think a lot of the time where trying to skirt the conversation about depression. "Oh, I'm sad, Maya Basa." But we don't really want to use the words that "I am depressed and this is how I'm feeling. I'm feeling hopeless. I'm feeling helpless." You need to have these conversations a lot more so that people know that if I tell somebody else or somebody in my church or my pastor or somebody in my worship team that I am depressed, it's not a stain on my faith or my walk with God. If you read the whole of Psalms, and I know as Christians, that don't talk about mental health or it's a harsh thing or God will heal you, so don't go and talk to anybody. David had a whole book full of what do you call it, of complaints, if I should put it. David was a very troubled man. David had his struggles, and David wrote about them and called on the Lord. But I believe if David had support, he would seek support as well. I don't know what kind of therapists were available in those days, but I believe David talked to somebody. So be there for that person. That's the most important thing. Pray for them and let them know that you are there, that they're not alone, that there's still light at the end of the tunnel, and there's still hope available. I'm sure Dr. Newman will have some more technical things to add. Me, I'm very
Thank you, Angela. That was good. And one thing just came to mind. In case the person is not picking your calls or responding to your text, I think the good thing you have to do is if you know their house, you go there and check on them. You never know what's happening. Thank you so much, Angie. Dr. Newman, do you have any additions?
Yeah, so just to add a bit, my approach, personally, I'm a Christian, and my approach to mental health issues on all levels is that you need a holistic approach. There is not one approach that can work So you need physical, mental, social, and spiritual approach to be able to deal with. So it's combination, not just one, but a combination of all. And there's this, let me share, there's this scripture that defines health in the Bible. The day I found it, I was shocked. Luke chapter 2, verse 52. Luke chapter 2, verse 52. The Bible was clear why Jesus was successful. It says that, and Jesus grew in wisdom, in stature, in favor with God, and favor with men. Wisdom is mental, stature is physical, favor with God is spiritual, favor with men is social. That is health right there. Jesus increased in wisdom, in stature, in favor with God, favor with men. So physical is stature, mental, a wisdom is mental, favor with God is spiritual, favor with men is social. So even the Bible acknowledges that there are 4 dimensions to the human experience. And if you look throughout the Bible talks about doctors, the Bible talks about prayer, the Bible talks about all kinds of things. So in addition to what Angela said, right, in addition to the prayer and social support and stuff, which is not optional, it is part of the therapy. If the person wants to seek holistic care, the person needs to be doing that because that helps them. It helps them. Prayer and meditation helps with mental health issues significantly. In addition to that, the person should help that individual seek professional care. You may need a psychiatric or psychologist and stuff. And sometimes you may need some medication to be able to stabilize your mood a bit. Otherwise, the words and stuff doesn't make sense. Because some people, because of all the neurochemical changes going up there, they just can't put themselves to feel any better, even if you talk to them. So sometimes you may have to start them off a little. Sometimes for 2 weeks, you may have to put them on some medication. And by the time they come back, all the chemicals are balanced a bit. Then when you begin to talk, it makes sense. For example, schizophrenia, when they come and they are in the psychotic state, they are all over the place. But when you start some antipsychotic medication, just for like 2 weeks, they come and they are so clear, up there, and now they can engage you in a certain conversation. So in addition to what Angela said, we need all, where you're coming to the hospital, you are seeing your therapist, you may be put on some medications or not. In addition to that, you have social support. You yourself are taking, some steps like I shared with you earlier on about how to maximize your mental well-being. Then also prayer and meditation and all the things that people do. It's what. Otherwise, most of the therapies will not be effective if we are not holistic in our approach.
Thank you very much. So, one question from me quickly before I go on to those who have their hands raised. So, Lynette lives in the States, and it just occurred to me that out there, they are all into, I want my space, like you can't, intrude. So, in such a situation, how do you reach out if they are refusing any help at all? Because you don't want any police coming to arrest you for trespassing, in
Yeah.
someone's space. Yeah.
Um, I think from my experience, I can't blame people because especially if you're Black and you live in the UK or the US, there's a different kind of approach that is taken to addressing mental health problems, and people don't trust the system, so people don't want to engage. But I found that even if you are, it doesn't matter how individualistic you are. If somebody comes to knock on your door and says, "Oh, I just thought to come and say hi and to check up on you," at least, okay, I think my neighbors are nice, so they're open to that kind of thing. But um, some people just really need you to just knock on their door and say that I'm here if you need anything, a cup of sugar, it's the popular saying, or anything, just basically knock. They probably will not come and knock on your door, but they know that there's somebody who is available, who is right next door, and it's just really being able to be reminded that you are not alone. And that's what a lot of people need, especially during this period. The occasional, "Oh, hey, I just thought to come and knock on your door and say hello, this is my name." And I'm talking very practical because this is the kind of community we live in where, America is even better. In the UK, man, they'll pass by you. They don't care about you. But and I'm sure a lot of us already know that, but I think it's still important to be able to reach out and be that Christians, be your brother's keeper. You know, they may not know God, they may not have a relationship with God or anything, but be your brother's keeper. I know it's COVID season and social distancing and all of that. Wear your gloves and knock on their door. And when they do come out, just, I mean, say, oh, I just want to come and say hello, and I'm your neighbor, and just thought to come and check in, stuff like that. Sometimes people just really need to know that there's somebody there out there that cares about them, and that, you know, knows that they are still alive and that their life has meaning.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so we'll go quickly to the other questions. And Comfort Asiedu, sorry. Please go on.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I think I've really enjoyed this section, which I wasn't meant to, but I've managed to do, which is a good thing. And I would say my love and empathy to Miss Kumah. Yeah, for your recent diagnosis, and we thank God that you've been able to overcome it very strongly. And then that was so sweet of Dr. Neiman. That was so sweet. I think I've enjoyed this presentation so much. And yeah, but the two things maybe I picked up was this simple expectation. So your expectation, you don't have to what is it called? High standard all your expectation, like you expecting so much, oh, I need to get this, get that, which is a good thing. And then the positive thinking as well, which was a good thing that I took from the presentation, I think, which I demonstrated tonight, because I wasn't meant to join this section. I was meant to be on placement tonight. And then I left home, got everything was fine until 15 minutes to the place. The whole road was blocked. The motorway was blocked. All the cars were choked. I couldn't move. I've spent like 20 minutes, over 20 minutes. I was there, I couldn't move. So then I said to myself, all right, then we'll make the hours another time. So I couldn't make it. I have to come home. So I think positive thinking, what Dr. Nima said, is a good thing, because I mean, that's what has helped me anyway. Because whenever anything happens, I've realized that there is always a way out to everything. That's how it worked for me. Because I remember before, if I couldn't do anything, I get very stressed, I get very anxious, I get very agitated, and I get so frightened as well. And sometimes even if you get an email from your manager, you don't even know how to reply, and you don't know how the people will feel. I think my fear was, how would people feel when I test them or when I say things? That's the main thing behind my fear and my anxiousness and my anxiety. But now I've managed to think that, I mean, there is always a way out to everything. There is always a way out. Like the hours tonight, I couldn't make the hours up, which is 12 hours, which I was meant to make up with my clinical hours, but I couldn't make it. That's fine. I'll make it another time. That's how I've put it in my mind right now. If I can't do anything today, okay, we'll do it another time. There is a way out for everything. And I think that was what has helped me. And the presentation, I think, yeah, it's been sweet. I've loved it. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
And
Asiedu.
just to respond a little to the final statement she made
Okay.
about issues, I forgot to add that, and it's quite important. Anytime we lump problems together, they look too big to be solved. So you have a relationship issue, you have academic issue, you have friendship issues, you have work issues. When you put all of them together and you look at them together, you become overwhelmed. But when you separate them case by case, you will notice that it's not that difficult to solve them as individual cases. And so usually when people come to the hospital, they complain about too many things that is crashing on them. So they've lumped up all their issues together. So it looks so big. But when they're able to take it case by case, and they're able to focus on solutions instead of the problems, they are able to solve it. So, for example, you have a relationship issue, separate it from the academic issue. You have an academic issue, separate it from work issue, so that you can be able to analyze them case by case and find solutions to them. I think it's something that I forgot, because when people lump problems together, the problems look too big to be solved. But when they're able to separate the issues and look at them one by one, they realize that it's very easy to fix all of them.
Yeah. I'd just like to quickly add that the positive
I'll come back to that. I
positive.
want you to give
Okay.
us some practical ways we can separate the issues, but there are hands up, so we'll go to them. Can you all
Okay.
hear
Okay.
me?
I was going to add something to that, but once you're done with your question.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear
Hello?
you.
Abby, we can hear you.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So are you going to go into the questions or can I add to that?
Is it related to what we just
Yeah,
discussed?
it is.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I was just going to add that as Dr. Newman said about separating the problems, I started to recommend SWOT analysis to my clients, and a lot of them find it quite helpful. And I mean, this is a business organizational model, but I believe every one of us has some form of strength and resilience and resources that are already at our disposal. That's why we've been able to get through problems so far, but sometimes it gets to a limit. And I would advise people to put together a SWOT analysis. For instance, put together your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. When you have to face a problem, for instance, when you put together a SWOT analysis, you already know that, okay, if I am anxious, these are the things that are within my sphere of control. These are the things that threaten my anxiety or my well being. These are the opportunities that are available, the help that is available, the care, the support. These are my weaknesses. These are the things that expose me to constant anxiety, like constantly being exposed to the news, constantly hearing negative stuff. If I'm able to put these things, I mean, this analysis down for a problem that I'm facing at the moment, I know that, okay, I have the strength, these are my weaknesses, these are the opportunities, and these are the threats, and this is how I can head on face it and actually get through it in a systematic manner without being overwhelmed. Because the truth of the matter is that there are only some things that are within our sphere of control. Like we don't know when COVID is going to end, but the stuff, some of the stuff we can control are the kinds of food we're going to be eating, how much physical activity we get, how much exposure we are getting to the news and stuff like that. And these are some of the barriers or things that we can put in place to try to keep a positive mindset and deal with the problems systematically, as Dr. Newman has already rightly said. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I muted myself. So, Irama has commented, and it's related to what you just said, Angie. She says, so we shouldn't say, I'm such a bad person because you didn't do well in one aspect of your life. Maybe you are doing well in some other spheres of your life, but have some work to do in others. That's very true. We tend to beat ourselves down a lot when one thing goes wrong, but we should celebrate the other good sides as well. And then she's added that, but when you are stressed, you can't do that analysis. So I think this relating to this what it's rather
I know
overwhelming trying to think
it
through.
it is. I mean, to be fair, it is. But I mean, it's really sometimes it really is about listen, taking deep breaths and putting all the work aside for the day and saying, I'm going to bed. I'll face it tomorrow. It, you're not a weakling for saying I am tired and I'll face the problem tomorrow. There's nothing wrong. I think it's like face it now, do it now, get it done now, deal with it now, but sometimes we need to really take a break. And I'm talking about was short analysis because I had a client that was suicidal. Like this person was actually Googling what is the easiest way to die. That's how bad it was. And I said, okay, sometimes it's just hard because you can't see your worth and you are stressed and you are tired and you are overwhelmed. But it may seem like a stressful exercise, but honestly, it's quite relaxing to sit down and think. The last time this happened, I was strong. These are the kinds that are my strengths. These are the amazing things about me, and this all comes under the positive affirmations. These are the amazing things about me, and these are the things I am scared of, but these are the things that are available to me. As it may seem like a stressful thing because if you're a business person, you know that SWOT analysis is a whole caseload. But when it comes to your mental health and well-being, having recommended it to clients and having tried it on myself, it's quite a relaxing exercise to sit down and say that these are the things that are available to me. These are the resiliences and coping abilities I have, and this is how I know I can deal with things and break down things into more sizable portions. Like Dr. Newman has already rightly said, it does sound overwhelming, but on the contrary, if you do try it, it's not that hard.
Yeah, and stress is a response. So stress is a response. So when you feel stressed, it means that you are responding in a way that is putting undue pressure on yourself. The moment you begin to respond differently, you realize that there's not much stress. Personally, I have a very, 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 very calm, simple way of looking at things. So I can live with anybody. If you're a fool, I will not be wise around you because it will be stressful to be wise around a fool. So if you're a fool, I'm a fool. If you're wise, I'm wise. If you are difficult, we'll flow. So I'm
Wow.
able to, for example, you have a child and that child is a stress to you. I ask parents, for example, parents who are being stressed by their kids. I ask the parent who is worried. I ask the parent, if you were to die today, will your kids move on? The answer is always yes. What it means is that we are not that important, though we are so important. We are not overly important, such that everything has to revolve around us. Otherwise, things will go bad. And so we put undue pressure on ourselves to do things. So if we are able to simplify our goals, think about it. She is doing a PhD, right? It's good. It's amazing that she's doing a PhD, but her life goes beyond a PhD. Such that PhD shouldn't be define your life. There was a lady who was having some, bleeding problems, and she was so worried about it, and it's affecting every other aspect of her life. You know what I told her? I told her, your life is more than your uterus. There is more to your life than your kids. There's more to your life. And usually, when people come and they are complaining about the lady who talked about, having a negative perception about herself, sometimes people come and I tell them, list the good stuff about yourself and list the bad stuff about yourself. And they'll realize that they'll find only few bad stuff about themselves and plenty good about themselves. So if they have that analysis, today I've learned the SWOT analysis for mental health. I'm taking it home. I've written
You're
it
going to
down.
have to pay me for that contribution.
Oh, I'm writing it down. I realize I see when people think about solutions instead of the problem, they are able to move on. So, for example, this year, COVID-19 is difficult for everybody. But you see, there are people who are enjoying. There are people who are billionaires now just because there was a pandemic, because they had a different approach even to the pandemic. So usually when people are able to list what they really have, it's easier for them to have a good perspective about what is happening. But when they over magnify, they catastrophize, these words, I must, I should.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, we can hear you.
Those absolute.
We can hear you, everybody.
Oh, okay. It's, Dr. Newman Fruit, so I was wondering whether it was me. Dr. Newman, are you still there? Okay. There are people with their hands up. I'm sure their hands are tired right now. So we'll go to Lawrence as Dr. Newman tries to get back on. Lawrence, please go on.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for this wonderful show. I've learned a lot from this session. And actually, this is the second time I'm listening to Dr. Newman today. And
Okay.
I think he's made very wonderful points in the afternoon and this evening as well, which has to do with the decriminalization and destigmatization of mental health illnesses. I think we also have to go ahead and demystify, because one of the challenges that we have in our country, Ghana for that matter, has to do with the fact that we have so many myths about mental health illnesses and all that. I've had experience with children who have learning disabilities, and parents will not buy into what you tell them. So we need to go a step further to demystify mental health illnesses. And we need platforms like this. and then we need to expand them. You see, there's a few of us that are on this platform, but we need to get to the masses. We need to get to the old folks in our villages, in our rural communities who are not able to get access to these type of information. So let's expand these mediums for us to be able to use to reach out to people with mental health. Now, my question goes to Dr. Newman. Dr. Newman, you are a medical officer and then a clinical psychologist for that matter. So I guess you understand the whole concept about using the biopsychosocial and spiritual approach to treat mental health illnesses. I've had a personal experience where I've had mental health nurses treating a client with an anxiety disorder solely on drugs, and it was becoming alarming. So I had to intervene at a point. Luckily for me, I came around and I intervened. So my concern has to do with the fact that yes, when you go to our mental health institutions, our hospitals, they are focusing more on the bio aspect, which is the giving of drugs. How do we manage the psychosocial aspect of mental health illnesses in our country? That's my question.
Well, it is not unusual for things like that to happen, because if you even look at the training of mental health care professionals, depending on where you are trained, you'll be more physical well-being driven than holistic, driven. And even for doctors, there are a lot of doctors who don't even understand what mental health is. Though in medical school, the teaching of mental illnesses is not as, the focus is not as much as on other illnesses. So it is not unusual for us to be more physical well-being driven. But I think things are changing. So what I say is that psychiatrists, when you see a psychiatrist first, psychiatrists really don't have time, to talk, or look at other areas. The psychiatrists are medical doctors who have gone to do a specialty in mental health. So they are also quite physical well-being driven, so they are likely to put in some drugs, and not even think about anything, any therapy of a sort. They are likely to do that. So what we need is also a multidisciplinary approach where the psychiatrist will do what they are supposed to do, refer them to a psychologist to do what they are supposed to do. The psychologist refers them to a social worker who does what they are supposed to do. And that teamwork is what provides some kind of holistic care. And sometimes the social workers will have to go see the parents or the family members and also the religious organization they come from, so that together they have this kind of holistic care. So the same way when someone has a stroke, we approach it, multidisciplinary, right? You have nutritionists, you have physiotherapists, you have pharmacists and doctors and staff involved in managing a stroke. The approach also has to do with involving other professionals, because we are limited in how far we can go with the patient. So I think that approach will help, a multidisciplinary approach where other professionals are invited to join hands to be able to take care of that person. Otherwise, management will be less effective.
Thank you very much, Dr. Newman. I hope your question has been answered. Lawrence.
Yes, it has been. Yes, thank you very much, Dr.
Okay.
Newman, for that wonderful one. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, Mana, sorry for keeping you waiting for this long. Please go on.
Yeah, thank you, Abigail. I just wanted to share something briefly about how in many Christian circles, people are not encouraged to seek help, professional help or otherwise. So I had issues. I had difficulties relating to my mom in my teen years. But by the time I finished uni, she and I were best friends. And she passed away suddenly just around the time that I finished uni. That was in 2005. What I didn't know, or well, I couldn't foretell, was that I began to have dreams of her and I set in those times that we had issues. And even though those times that we had issues were not so terrible, in the dreams, they seemed to be magnified. Like I would actually wake up from the dream feeling as if I was reliving those times that I clashed with her but they were more heightened, or they were worse than they actually were, in the time that had passed. I found that really puzzling because at the time she passed away, she and I were very close. I mean, we were closer than we had ever been. And I ignored them. I ignored these dreams, prayed about them, but didn't do anything else about them. But they were increasing in frequency and in intensity. And I remember sharing it with a colleague, a Christian colleague who was also a friend. I had known her before she became a colleague in the workplace. And I didn't even finish my statement when I said, I think I would like to go and see. I mentioned a Christian clinical psychologist's name. And before I could finish the statement, she made me feel terrible for even thinking that. So I'm just sharing this to go to how I think Angela was talking about. It's not, it doesn't mean that you don't have faith in God to seek help. Okay. And so because of the reaction I got from this older, more experienced Christian whom I respected, I didn't seek help. And the dreams continued and got worse until I decided I was going to do that. And I'm so thankful that I did. And the dreams ended. And I know definitely that this clinical psychologist I spoke to prayed for me. You see, I could tell that she was praying for me, apart from having sessions with me. And so if you are out there and you're having any such challenge that maybe in the past we won't label as mental health issues, now, I mean, on platforms like this and others, we are learning that some of those issues all fall under mental health issues, and we can get help for them. We don't have to deal with them alone and pray. And I like what Dr. Newman said about the scripture that depicts, like gives you a picture of health. So if any part of that is not functioning well, then we need to get help. So I would say, I think, I don't know who said this, but it's like, believe in God, but seek. But I would say, believe
Give
in
it to
God
God.
and seek help.
Yeah,
Give it
give
to
it to
God
God, but talk to your
and
therapist.
yes, so I would say, give it to God and talk to your therapist. Because God can work through that therapist to bring you the help that you need. And then I just also want to quickly add this. I've worked for some time with a small group of mothers who have children with special needs. And one of the things that I have struggled to get them to understand is that they need to get to a place where their child knows that my mommy and my daddy, they love me even if I can't talk, even if I can't do well in school. The child just needs to know beyond just saying, I love you, that my parents love me and accept me, especially when this child who has challenges has other siblings who are fine, who are excelling in school, who are talking, who are just shining in every area of their development. And I find that this affects the mental health of the mothers themselves and of the children. So my little research has shown me that the children themselves don't do well. They don't really, it's like it's hard for them to overcome the challenges that they're facing because somehow they know that my mommy is waiting for me to talk before she loves me. My mommy is waiting for me to do well in school before she loves me. Or my daddy is waiting for me to do what he wants me to do before he loves me, especially when there are other siblings who are doing all those things that child is struggling with and who gets a lot of praise for it. So I just want to drop in there. If there's anyone on this platform who is dealing with anything like that, it is God who will give you that grace to overcome in your mind the fact that your child is less of anything that you want them to be. Of course, every parent wants the best for their child. And so that's the only time that you can actually be able to help your child, when you can love him or her in spite of whatever challenges there are. And that is what is going to give you the mental strength and give the child the mental strength to overcome. So I just wanted to share this. If there's anyone on this platform or we know anyone dealing with a child that has any kind of challenge, learning difficulties, any kind of special need, developmental delays, and stuff like that.
Mana, thank you. Thank you so very much. That has been really insightful. We have two questions. Nana's one came first, but Kweku's one is pretty simple. So we'll tackle that. Nana, please, don't kill me. And Kweku is asking, how much does it cost to see a psychiatrist? Angie or Dr. Newman, do you know?
I'll give Dr. Newman that one. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
Well, I think it depends on where you are, and it depends on which facility you walk into. Generally, most mental health issues are not on insurance, national insurance, or it depends. If you are in Ghana, it's not on many of the insurance companies' lists. So when you are paying for some psychologist or psychiatrist services, you may have to pay for a specialist kind of service. And so probably ranges between 100 cedis and about 500 cedis, depending on who you see, the quality of the psychiatrist or the psychologist, and where they work. But
how do you know that? How do you know the quality of the psychiatrist?
Well, you will know.
You don't know until you go there.
No, but generally, whichever hospital you walk into, they've made it affordable for the individual. So depending on how much you can afford, there's something we call sliding scale, where we scale down what you can afford. But usually it's a specialist service. Between 100 and 500 cedis. Majority of the hospitals may charge between 100 and 200 cedis and nothing more. Right? Majority of the hospitals and nothing more. But if you still go and you cannot afford, they have a way of working it out. But if you go to a government hospital, it's far cheaper than when you go to a private clinic. Though the attention at the private clinic may be more than the government hospital, but generally the government hospital is cheaper.
Dr. Newman, can I quickly add that and maybe task you to put, if you and a number of other psychologists in Ghana could put together a list of how much the costs are, because people are constantly asking, where can I get a psychologist? This information is not readily available, and I can say for a fact, because if somebody is calling you from Ghana to ask you if they can see a psychologist, then they can't find the information anywhere. And I saw a thread on Twitter the last time where somebody who worked at Accra Psychiatric Hospital was talking about how much it costs. And everybody under the thread was laughing and saying that this is really cheap. The therapy is probably not even good enough, And like, as you said, the quality of the therapy may, depend on what kind of service you are getting. But I think it's really important for us to put this kind of list together so that when people want to seek the help, because sometimes it's not that they don't want to seek the help, they don't know where to find it in the first place and how much it costs. And I encourage all of us that I don't think God will be mad at us for taking money out of the money that we're going to give as offering to pay for somebody's first or second or third or 3 therapy sessions so that somebody can seek professional help. It's okay to say that they should go and seek professional help, but sometimes they don't have the money. That's why they are not going, or they don't know where to find it. So pick money out of your pocket, take it as your act of service to God, and pay for their therapy sessions so that they can also receive some help. That's what church is for, isn't it?
Well, in Ghana, it can be as low as 100 cedis. It can be as low as 100 cedis.
Hey, 100 cedis is not low.
Wherever
100 cedis is somebody's salary.
You know what? If you compare to other specialist care, now specialist obstetrics and gynecologists, you go to surgeons and stuff, the amount of money they collect for specialist care. So, mental health workers don't even take that. Because now I know a lot of private clinics, specialist care is above 250. They get to even 500 to see a surgeon or an obstetrician and gynecologist. You see, but people pay. But you see, the difficulty in paying for mental health care is not that it's really expensive, but the fact that they don't see any gadgets around. They don't see any labs, they don't see any surgery. So they think that, Charlie, this guy cry, if I'm coming in there for us to engage in a conversation, why should I pay? But they don't know that this is the treatment and therapy they need. So actually, it's not expensive for you to receive psychological or mental health care. It's not expensive. if you compare to other specialists. Because no surgeon will charge 100 cedis. No surgeon is going to take 100 cedis. No obstetrician and gynecologist will take 100 cedis for specialist care. No way. But people pay. So ours is really, really cheap. Trust me. 100 cedis in some quarters for therapy, and we spend more than an hour per patient. The least is an hour. The least I spend is an hour. An obstetrician will see 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you're gone.
You're done.
But we, an hour, sometimes a therapy session, 3 hours with a patient. By the time they finish narrating their problems, it's already 1 hour. Then you do assessments, then you begin some therapy. So even we spend more time with the client, more than any other profession, especially except when they are on the theater table and they have to spend longer hours. And that one is way expensive. We spend more time with the clients, but we charge less. And it's sincerely, especially in Ghana, there's mental health professionals are really breaking their back to make sure that we push this. Everybody is sacrificing on all levels. I'm on interviews every week. Today, I've granted about 2 interviews already, and it's all free. That kind of thing. And TV is called. I've done 2 TV interview, radio interview, and you don't charge anything. And it's. We are really pushing because we want to really help. Everybody is really doing their best. So it's not expensive. So the person should just go seek help.
Okay, thank you. Our time is running out. So I'll read Nana's question. That'll be the last one, and then we'll round up. I don't know how comfortable you are with sharing your details. Maybe if you are, I can type them in the chat so that anyone who wants to reach out to you after here can do that. Both Dr. Newman and Angie. So please, or you can type in the chat. You can go ahead, depending on how you feel about it. All right. So Nana is asking, can an individual's personality trait influence their mental health? Example, are melancholics more likely to be depressed as opposed to sanguines? And how do you overcome something that is such an integral part of who you are? So Angie, maybe you can start. Thank you. I've seen your contact.
Yeah. So personality traits do play such a significant role in our behavior. And I think a lot of people don't know their personalities or their temperaments. That is why when they're going through things or struggling, they don't understand what is going on. I personally know that I've forgotten already. But I know that if you read, for instance, this book by Tim LaHaye called The Spirit-Filled Temperament, I know that I'm a bit of a phlegmatic and sanguine, and a mixture of both. And that falls directly into my line of procrastinating with everything. So I'm a huge procrastinator, and I know that it's a personality trait of mine because I have looked into my personality traits. So those, personality traits, being a melancholic, being a sanguine, being a phlegmatic, also knowing those are temperaments, also knowing your personality traits, whether you are going to be taking the big 5 personality tests, all of these things are pretty free versions online where you can take 1 or 2 personality tests and see if you are higher on neuroticism, or these are very technical terms. But basically, all I'm saying is that temperaments and personalities do have a huge role to play in our mental health as well and our well-being, because we are based on our environment, nature versus nurture, how we grew up, the environment that we grew up in, and the temperaments that we were born with as well. I think according to my research, temperaments are from your grandparents, and personality types develop more based on your experiences, on your environment, and things like that as well. Different aspects of different occasions or events within your life may affect how your outlook on life. People are born natural warriors. They constantly worry about everything, and that may instantly play into how high the anxiety levels may be. So it's always important to always have at least a basic idea of what your personality is. And maybe I'll find a few personality tests, or Dr. Newman can give a more specified ones. I usually find some that you can get online and take 2 or 3 of them and see what the connections or the disparities are. And if you eventually see a psychologist, when you start to talk to them, you say, oh, I found out that I was this personality trait. It makes the conversations a lot easier. Dr. Newman can testify to that, I suppose. But yes, personality traits do play a really huge role in your mental health and well-being. And as usual, Dr. Newman will give you the very technical side of it.
Okay, Dr. Newman, like 2 minutes. Please help us.
She's putting a lot of pressure on me. I will not yield. I love making things very simple. Personality is basically who you are and how you respond to your environment. It's as simple as that. And so, depending on your personality, you are able to see things in a certain way and respond in a certain way. And most of the mental illnesses has to do with how people see things and how they respond to the environment. So if your response is not optimum, it's not appropriate, based on limitations with your personality, then you may go into problems. So most of the problems people have is just because of how they respond to the environment. So simply that is how I'll put it. But if you meet a psychologist or someone like that, there are about 16 groups of personality, traits. 16. Actually, you can group them even into 16. Broadly into two: introverts, extroverts, melancholics, cholerics, sanguines, flex and stuff like that. But there are about 16 groups. Depending on what your group is, it has weaknesses and strengths. So your weaknesses can place a limitation on you, and it can influence some mental illnesses or mental health issues. And your strengths is what we usually focus on to help you, live the life that will help you, maximize your potential and your environment. So basically, that's what I'm saying. We don't have time. Maybe the next I will do personality issues.
Yes. Thank you so much. Earlier on, I saw Kwame Ntiada. I don't know whether your question has been answered. That's why you've lowered your hand. If not, we'll give you the last slot.
Thank you, Abby. I was actually going to respond to the question of personality traits. I think both Angie and Dr. Arthur answered it the right way, but I think the point I wanted to make is that a lot of times in trying to help people who are struggling with mental issues, we do not understand the person's traits or personality. And a lot of times we go in and ask, are you okay? And what can I do to help you and whatnot? It's good to do that, but you also have to be cautious, because what you might think is the right approach to help them may actually end up being not the right thing to do. A good example is my friend. I had some mental issues, and some of his friends were doing that, trying to check on him, and it made him more and more depressed. I just went in and said, hey, let's go for a bike ride. And he's like, sure, we'll do that. And by approaching it in a different way and understanding who he truly was, it made it easier for me to connect to him. So I think in understanding personality traits, it helps us in our own mental issues, but it also helps us to understand other people and how to deal with them. So that was a comment that I wanted to add to what both Angela and Dr. Arthur put out there. So thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. That's a good point there. It reminded me of the earlier question of Lynette's friend who wasn't open to help. Yeah, but I think it's good that we all take note of that. I think it would take the Holy Spirit to give us discernment.
Yeah.
And also just trying. Like, if one way doesn't work, you go to the other, but don't impose things on the person. Like, take your time until they finally respond. Thank you so much, Kwame. That was a good one. So we'll bring an end to our session. I know it's getting interesting, but some people's data is running out. and time is also running out. Our lights just went off. In case my background has become dark, that's the reason. That's Ghana for you. But I want to thank everybody. This has been good. I mean, I've also learned a lot. One thing I'm really concerned about is the fact that there isn't adequate awareness about mental health in our settings. I think even in our educational system, I don't really see a lot of stress on that. All these personality tests and these things that will help us to know ourselves, we don't find them in our curriculum. I stand to be corrected, but I don't remember from primary education till now. I think it was only in university that, yeah, in psychology we came across some of these things. So I'm hoping that what we've started here will have a ripple effect, and our society be more embracing of tackling mental health, and that stigmatization will go away. That will help each other to be able to deal with our everyday stresses. So once again, thank you so much. Your final remarks, just like 30 seconds for both of you. There we go.
So 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but one of love, of power, and of a sound mind. So meditate on God's word. It's such an important thing. And again, you can give it to God and still talk to your therapist. You having a mental health problem is not a flaw in your character, it's not a flaw in your faith. You're not less of a Christian for being depressed or anxious or having schizophrenia. And yeah, seek help when you can, because it's available. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Newman.
So I would say that mental issues are not personal issues, they are health issues that require some professional help. So if you're going through stuff, it is not a personal issue, it's a health issue. And that dimension is under mental health. And so the same way you go to the hospital when you have a headache, the same way you go to hospital when you have mental health issues. The way you think, the way you feel, and the way you behave, if it's affecting your life, just walk into any hospital. And even if they can't help you there, they will refer you to see the right person who can help you. And so I wish that people would be quick to go to the hospital the same way they are quick to go to us when they have some physical health issue of a sort. And when you do that, sometimes people come and you simplify their issue and they are wondering, so how come I didn't even come earlier? And that is what professionals are supposed to do. I wish you all the best and have a lovely month.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Abby. Thank you,
That's
everyone.
a really good one. Mental health is not a personal issue; it's a health issue. I think that's the dimension we need to get used to in our society. It's part of the health issues, so we should feel free to go to the hospital for treatment for that as well. Thank you all once again. God bless you, Angie.
Abby.
Give us a quick closing prayer, and then we'll go.
Thank you, Lord Jesus, for your goodness and your faithfulness to us, and for bringing us to the end of this program. Thank you that you keep in perfect peace all who trust in you. To help us to keep our hearts and our minds stayed on you. Help us to remember that there is help available, and that our health, holistic health, mental, physical well-being is important to you as well. Help us not to shy away from offering support to those that are around us, and for those who have friends or know people who are struggling to go through stuff. Lord, I ask for your healing and for your peace that passes all understanding to come and rest on them. Give them your discernment and your grace to be able to know how to help others and bring support and respite to all the many people all around the world that are struggling. Give you glory and give you praise for answered prayer. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. One last thing before we go. A lot of people have been asking me what Imani stands for. So Imani is a name I heard which I liked a lot in the past, and I adopted. And when I checked the meaning, it meant faith in Hebrew or Swahili. I didn't even know I was going to do this show at the time I adopted it. But as I prayed about what name to give this show, that's the name that came up. So in case you're wondering, that's what Imani means. Okay. Once again, thank you all very much. So let's continue to speak. Let's be real so that we can live. That's the whole idea. We can't just live substandard lives. We have to live abundant lives. So by God's grace, we will do that. Bye, everybody. You can either show your face and say bye, or just thank you.
Bye.
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 I'd like to see some of your faces.
Bye.
Hi. Hey, I close. Bye.
Hello.
Hey. Nana. Charlie, thanks for coming. I hope your question was answered.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Where's the rest of
Yes.
the family?
I'll speak to you later, right?
Okay. Okay.
Can you see her? And one is
Great session,
sitting
Abigail.
here.
Thank you, Na. Sorry, Na.
I'll see you on the side.